Tonight on News 5 Live, the preliminary conclusion by the Honduran Armed Force says human error led to BDF helicopter accident. The Belize City Council opens up its books and shows a positive financial turnaround. The family of Carolyn, Arnold, says that her purse and bag are missing, and at least one person is being sought for her murder. As the coronavirus continues to spread, the KHMHA says health personnel are exposed due to the bad state of the isolation area. Details of these stories and much more coming up in tonight's newscast.
The scariest thing in basketball is to come face to face with a Category 5
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, March 11th. I am Sabrina Daly. Was human error the cause of the fatal BDF helicopter crash? That's what the Honduras Air Force Accident Prevention and Investigation Board says is the preliminary probable cause. The Ministry of National Security released the written report into the cause of the crash on Tuesday evening. But the report also looks at a number of factors that could have contributed to the fatal crash, including the use of cell phone, weather conditions, and the lack of night vision equipment. The report's prelim determination is that the crew experienced spatial disorientation when it was making a right turn and led them to rush against the water, without having enough time to identify the situation and react with the use of flight controls. News 5's Andrea Polanco delves into the report.
On February 27th, a helicopter from the Belize Defense Force was discovered in the Gales Point Wildlife Sanctuary's western lagoon off the coastal road. On board the helicopter were BDF's top pilot and highly qualified pilot instructor, Major Radford Beiser, the BDF's Air Wing commander and co-pilot on the mission, Major Adrian Ramirez, and two crew members, Corporals Yasir Mendez and Reynaldo Choco. All four men were found dead on board. What caused the helicopter to go down? Well, according to the 23-page report produced by the Honduran Air Force Accident Prevention and Investigation Board, one of the probable causes of the accident is human error. The report concluded that because the mission was being carried out during hours with limited visibility, no night goggles or vision equipment, and in poor flying weather conditions, coupled with the findings that, quote, probably one of the pilots was making reports or receiving information via cell phone, which may create an optical illusion and spatial disorientation in the pilot command of the flight controls at the time, end quote. The report noted that this could have affected the pilot to put the aircraft into an unusual position, causing him to lose control and descend at a steep angle, which led to the fatal accident. The only mention of the helicopter near the site of the drug plane on the morning of the operation is a one-line mention that states, quote, according to a witness who was on land near the clandestine landing area, the helicopter could be heard approaching the area, but at approximately 4:30 local time, the sound of the helicopter was not heard again, causing the impression that it had returned to its base or that it had gone to another place, end quote. The written report also noted that it is not known if the crew had instructions to land or just fly over the area. On Friday, February 28, Minister of National Security Michael Parafit pointed out that the men would hover or land based on past experiences.
It's not unusual, as I said, for the helicopter to hover in the area or even land on the ground, on the site. It is equally not unusual for the helicopter to remain for the entire day at the site with the support of the composite team or other supporting members of the Belize Police Department or the BDF.
The report outlined the use of cell phone on board the helicopter as one of the factors that could have created optical illusions and affected the pilot and could have led to the fatal accident. The report states that, quote, according to comments made by BDF staff and by the Internal Investigation Board, minutes before the accident, this is at 4:27 Belize time, one of the pilots was making reports via WhatsApp, since it's assumed that they were required by the crew, end quote. The report also points out that the last message sent at 4:30 that morning went unanswered. It is estimated that this could be the time of the accident. The use of cell phone, according to the Ministry of National Security and the Belize Defense Force, is for WhatsApp messages to communicate and is a common practice because the BDF lacks the equipment. Here's what they shared on Tuesday about the use of cell phones during an operation. From your end, is WhatsApp the only or the preferred medium used to communicate when you're out on missions?
At times, because that is what is available.
All right. So is there any other form of communication that would be used?
Sure, we use radios, but depends on the availability and the location you're at.
So radios wouldn't have been an option that morning, you're saying?
Could be. I'm not sure, because it was JAB conducting the operations.
But you as the general, don't you ensure that when your men go out that they're equipped, or your person in charge of operations, would he not have checked those things?
It's a JAC run operation through the air wing. They know what they need, and they send out that requirement.
So JIAC knows all the procedures of the
No,
BDF
the air wing knows what they need for an operation that they've been tasked to do.
Okay.
And if that was the preferred method that JIAC wanted, then they had to use that.
So JIAC determines what is used, you're saying?
For certain missions.
Have you in the past passed on a concern to your higher-ups that there was no radio communication available for the men in the air wing and that they had to be relying on WhatsApp?
The ministry has a list of requirements for us.
What does that mean?
A list of requirements.
So,
Resources that is required.
meaning that you have made a request to the ministry for such equipment,
For various
for appropriate
various
equipment.
Various
Did
equipment.
radio include one of them?
Various equipment.
How long ago was that made?
We do it every year around the budget time.
And so then no radios were gotten last year, the year before, since the air wing became operational when you got these two helicopters.
Answers it.
Sorry?
That answers your question.
Meaning that you
answer your
have
question.
not
The answer
We
is
have
no.
we have
gotten-
requested.
The answer is no.
I'm not.
No, we have
I'm not-
requested. What else can I say?
Another big factor that may have played a role in the fatal accident was weather condition that morning. The report says, quote, likewise, it is theorized that according to the flight conditions, the crew began a right turn with a descending vertical speed of 1,000 feet per minute, which possibly caused a spatial disorientation in the crew since they were performing a night flight under unfavorable atmospheric conditions, not using night vision goggles equipment, and also flying over water. End quote. The investigators say that the weather report from the Met Service showed, quote, a strong cold front was crossing the country in the early hours of the morning of February 27th, with showers, thunderstorms, and periods of rain, end quote. Additionally, visibility was predicted reduced from 4 to 5 kilometers, and at 5:30 a.m. forecast warned of severe turbulence from strong winds and gusts of 25 to 30 knots. The report concluded that the prevailing atmospheric conditions were not favorable for carrying out this flight mission on a low-altitude night flight. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
The 23-page report outlines concerns as it relates to the operation of the helicopter in the mission on February 27th. The use of cell phone to communicate by WhatsApp messages and the poor weather conditions to fly are all considered factors in what may have caused the accident. The Ministry of National Security and the Belize Defense Force says that use of cell phone is not uncommon, and according to the Honduran report, the helicopter was not equipped with radio communication. The ministry says that the commander of the Air Wing, Major Adrian Ramirez, made the call to go out, despite reportedly being told about poor weather conditions. Here's more from the report with Andrea Polanco.
According to the Ministry of National Security, on the morning of February 27th, the day of the operation off the coastal road, Commander of the Belize Defense Force, Stephen Ortega, conditionally approved the operation, expressing concerns about conditions of the weather and other factors. The decision to fly that morning, according to the Minister of National Security, was that of the commander of the Air Wing and co-pilot of the mission, Major Adrian Ramirez.
At around 2:12 a.m., Major Ramirez texted General Ortega and asked him if the mission is a go. At 2:18 a.m., General Ortega calls JIAP to get a briefing on the mission and repeats his conditional approval as he explains to JIAP that it would be up to Major Ramirez to finally determine if they can fly the helicopter based on the weather and other factors. At 2:22 a.m., General Ortega calls Major Ramirez and tells him that the mission is a go, provided that he, Major Ramirez, is satisfied that the proper conditions exist in order to safely fly, and that in his, General Ortega's, view, the weather will not clear up until about 5 a.m. At around 3:17 a.m., Major Ramirez texted General Ortega and said, "Sir, weather hold up, will depart." Major Ramirez had total discretion to refuse the mission if he believed that weather conditions were not favorable or WhatsApp messages could not easily be communicated. At any time, it is universally accepted within the military, and especially when it comes to flights from the air wing, that even if he needed to communicate but couldn't communicate, he could turn back and abort the mission.
Another limitation noted in the report was that the air wing doesn't have night vision goggles equipment. The document states, quote, "At the time of takeoff, there was no natural lighting to make a flight without sight glasses, in this case, night vision goggles. The crew was not using any night vision goggles equipment to perform this mission because the BDF air wing doesn't own any," end quote. The analysis of the helicopter, according to the Honduran Air Force Accident Prevention and Investigation Board, shows that it was in working condition. As it relates to the condition of the UH-1H helicopter, the report says that, quote, "Its maintenance reports updated to the date of the accident. Instruments found show that it was in normal operating range." The report concluded that the airworthiness of the aircraft was not a factor in the accident.
Was there any previous mechanical failure that was brought to your attention in relation to that helicopter?
Previous?
Yeah.
The engineers do checks, and whenever there's issues, we repair it and we fix them.
So to your knowledge, that helicopter was flying just fine?
Yes, excellent. It was in excellent condition.
The report also noted that the engine will be sent to a manufacturer for a more detailed study of its operation. The report pointed out that 4 pieces of the aircraft were sent to the forensic medicine for their respective ballistic analysis, since, quote, "There are perforations that, due to the type of mission, are suspected of being caused by a firearm. The results show that there were no firearm impacts on the airframe," end quote. According to the report, an analysis of the wreckage based on the damage, quote, "caused the instantaneous death of the crew, corroborated by the autopsy," end quote. It goes on to say that everyone on board the aircraft died from multiple injuries caused during the accident. So this report concludes that the probable causes of the accident were the human factor as a result of limited visibility, without gears of night goggle vision, in adverse weather conditions, and the use of cell phones on board the aircraft during that time. So can anyone be held responsible for the deaths of these 4 men? The Minister of National Security, Michael Parafit, says that's left to be seen, as there are other elements of the investigation that are ongoing.
Is there anything actionable at this point against anyone for dereliction of duty?
Not at this point, until we conclude that aspect of the investigation. Remember, what we're talking about right now preliminarily is just the actual helicopter itself and the forensics and ballistics. There's another investigation going on as it relates to protocols and how things should have worked out internally. Captain Bennett is currently working on that, and that aspect of the investigation has not yet concluded.
Sir, I know it is.
But I can assure you that if anyone was found to be in dereliction of duty, there will be full consequences to be paid.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Other points raised in the report include the issue of the pilot's time flying the aircraft for narco-trafficking operations. The report recommended that there be a separation of the classification of the pilots in 2 wings, fixed wing and rotating wing. It also noted that the initial training as a pilot in command must be based on international standards with a minimum of 120 hours of training on the aircraft. The report says that Major Adrian Ramirez had a total of 130 flying hours on the UH-1H helicopter. Bizer, on the other hand, had a total of 325 hours. The findings also show that both pilots have received a total of 30 hours of transition training in the UH-1H helicopter. The report also made a number of recommendations based on the findings and investigation. It stated that no night rotary wing operations should be carried out in places where there are no radio navigation aids. It also recommended that the use of night vision goggles be made available, especially in places where no radio aids exist. It is recommended that no night flights be made in low altitude over the sea or lagoon because the flight in those conditions produces visual illusions. Another recommendation is for a person in charge of the dispatch to the aircraft to be aware of its return, because survivors could have died due to the length of time it took to activate search and rescue. In the case, it was almost 30 hours later. There were few points that the investigators say that they were unable to verify because they were told that some of the information were classified and are matters of national security. According to the report, they were not able to verify the physical and mental conditions of the crew because of the high scarcity of the mission, and the medical records are pending review. The report also pointed out that under its human factors section, that the crew rest time prior to the mission is unknown because of the degree of confidentiality. Also, it is not known how long they were waiting for the order of executing the flight. One of the issues that have stuck out in this story is the sequence of events on the morning of February 27th. As you heard in Tuesday's briefing, Commander of the Belize Defense Force, Stephen Ortega, said that the mission was coordinated by GIOC. The report notes that the flight was authorized to carry out a mission to fight drug traffickers. In the synopsis of the report, it was noted that the team was unable to fight out the time the flight was authorized, noting, quote, undetermined local time, unquote. While the report doesn't say why that piece of information couldn't be provided or verified during Tuesday's press briefing, Minister of National Security Michael Perifit shared a timeline that starts at 1:38 a.m., where GIOC reportedly made a request of General Ortega, and at 1:45 a.m., GIOC reached out Major Ramirez. Families of the fallen Belize Defense Force soldiers met with the Minister of National Security, Michael Perifit, and Chief of Defense Staff, Admiral Borland, and investigators on Tuesday at Price Barracks. They were represented by 3 attorneys, including Audrey Matura. The families of the soldiers are expected to receive benefits, but that might take months since a grant of administration must be obtained in order to receive the benefits. Matura says that the families have agreed that they would be asking the government for an advance of these benefits, since the soldiers were, in most of the case, the sole breadwinners.
One of the things that I would wish the government to consider, and I speak here on behalf of all 4 families because they're all in agreement with this position, is that we know that there are financial benefits that the 4 soldiers are entitled to by virtue of having served in the military. We know as lawyers that there's a process we have to go through the court to get a grant of administration so that the administrator of the estate can request that from the military. However, that does take a couple months. It could take 3 to 6 months, and depending on certain circumstances, it can take more. So we think that one of the things the government should be considerate of is to give them an advance on those benefits to be subtracted from the final payment that needs to be made of their benefits, because the reality is most of these women were very much dependent on the salary of their husband, even when they worked. It was a family and they have children, and so suddenly to be weeks, days, months without that money, I think we need to consider their financial position at this point. So that's one of the things we will be putting in writing to the government for them to consider. It's nothing unusual to be asking for an advance.
An elderly woman who is a grandmother and great-grandmother of many children was viciously killed and her semi-clad body found at a dump site in the Ladyville area on Tuesday morning. Carolyn Arnold reportedly left a friend's house on Monday night, but did not make it to her own house since her life was snuffed out sometime later. There have been no arrests in the murder, but the grieving family of Arnold says that despite previous reports, some of her personal belongings cannot be located. Here is News 5's Dwayne Moody with a report.
It's been almost 36 hours since the gruesome discovery was made at an illegal dump site on a dirt road off the Philip Goldson Highway near mile 13. The partially nude body of 64-year-old Carolyn Arnold was found with cut wounds to the neck. The mother of 4 children, 15 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren was affectionately known as Mams to many, including relatives and friends, was God-fearing, and would help every and anyone she comes in contact with. So the news of her demise has left the family and the wider Ladyville community perplexed.
I got the news about the tragedy about my sister Carolyn, and it was so sad. I couldn't believe what they done to my sister. I don't know who would want to try kill her. But my sister is a very quiet girl. She never speak nothing violence to nobody. She didn't like quarrel, she didn't like talk, she didn't like to party, she didn't drink, she didn't smoke. I tried to push her in it. I started to drag her to dance. I do all kind of thing to make her laugh, to make her happy. And she said, sister, I'm not into that kind of thing there. She into the church. Who know Carolyn? Arnold or Carolyn Oreo? They all know she's a very, very nice and smooth person.
Sister Elena Arnold says that she last spoke with Carolyn on Sunday and asked her to visit with her in Belize City for 2 days. She never showed up and had a bad feeling since then. Carolyn had been brutally killed and her body dumped on the side of the road.
A female body was sighted in a road in the Lake Garden area near the M&M construction site. As a result, police visited the scene where they observed the motionless body of a female person lying face up on the tree side with an apparent injury to the body.
Carolyn was reportedly visiting with a friend less than a block away from where she lived on the Lake Gardens Road on Monday night. And while there are conflicting information on the time that she supposedly headed home, that was the last time she was seen alive. The elderly woman never made it to her house as her body was discovered in the same clothes the following day. While the family is awaiting test results from the forensics department, as well as the report of an autopsy scheduled for later this week, they say that several of Carolyn's belongings cannot be located. They also don't believe that she was killed where her body was found.
When I found out, we couldn't even believe that it was really my mom. We thought that we may have found my mom. If anything, we would have found my mom in a bed, you know, probably from a heart attack or something like that. Not somebody could do this to my mom, especially that lady. Thing is, my mom was there at one of her friend's house until 9. After 9, my mom disappeared. So what happened between being at somebody's house? So now it's all that we need to be careful of who that we friend, who would entice as, you know, we could say you that for we friend, but to the end of the day, we don't know what this person is thinking in a mind. Right now, there's a lot of hate, jealousy, and we need a lot of prayer and God. They had to be taken there, so something had to happen from right where she was at that house, from 7 at night, between 7 and 9, or coming on in the morning, because now you're the year 7, you're the year 9, and you're the year 11. So everything is puzzling up right from where she made day. The house start. After that, we don't know.
So who killed Carolyn and why?
The corner where she lived, I never liked that area, none at all. I didn't like it. That's why something about that area, and that's why I tell my sister, please come stay with me. He said, I'm coming, my sister, but he never did come. He never did. But it have to be somebody where they're wrong the area, or somebody who got grievous vengeance against her for what, I don't know. But God not asleep.
She's such a lovely, sweet person. I don't know. I guess the person have to really, something probably happened to make that happen. Whoever did that, like you and God, we the feel for we own pain right now. But she sacrificed, Uno sacrificed my ma to save all of we, to bring we closer, for whatever, if that for the land dispute, Uno fight my ma and kill my ma for, which is wrong. That's another thing, because people say that people may threaten my ma. It could be basically that, or it could be the house where she made at 9 o'clock the night. And 9, my man are really deep on street 9. My mother like me, we go sleep 7:30 at night. We don't know out 9 o'clock people, unless there were emergency or some things like that, then maybe. So it's still puzzling to what happened and who did it to my mom.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Coming up, Mayor Bernard Wagner says the finances of City Hall are in healthy shape, and the council is about to launch a bond. Belize City Mayor Bernard Wagner was upbeat today, saying that belt tightening has turned around the finances of City Hall. According to the mayor, collections improved significantly and expenditures went down, all resulting in a healthy financial picture. At a press conference this morning, the mayor also said that now that the council is in good standing, it will be launching a bond to be able to deliver on campaign promises to city residents. Here's News 5's Isani Caetano.
Since taking office in March 2018, the Belize City Council, led by Mayor Bernard Wagner, has been on a path of fiscal prudence, working persistently to improve the financial status of the municipal administration. The first order of business upon assuming control of City Hall 2 years ago was to audit its books. During that exercise, it was observed that various departments saw an increase in expenditure between 2014 and 2017, with no positive or commensurate results. The outcome of that financial review ultimately served as a measure by which the council would then seek to turn around its standing.
It took my team and I many sleepless nights to restore some measure of fiscal sanity to the council's accounts, while reimposing the prudential rules necessary for accountability, transparency, and meaningful participation for good governance. We recognize very early that good governance insists we have transparency and accountability in the management of all our public affairs, thus this audit.
The systematic evaluation, particularly of the efficiency and effectiveness of CITCO's economic performance, was conducted by Cedric Flowers, a certified public accountant whose review dates back to the financial year ending March 31st, 2018.
Clearly you can see from a revenue standpoint that we went up 9%, and that is very important. That's a benchmark. In most businesses, when you get 10% growth, that's very good. If you get 5%, it's good. So when you are within the area of 10%, you are doing extremely, extremely well. So clearly you could see when compared to 2018 and 2019, March 31st, 2018, March 31st, 2019, we grew by 9% in terms of how we collected revenue.
During that period, City Hall was able to take in $2.1 million in additional income and was, in return, able to minimize its overall expenses by $1.7 million.
What made up that 9%? Property taxes, going from $8.3 million that we collected in 2018 to $9.1 million in 2019. When we took office, the previous council was mired in a between 60-65% collection ratio. We were able to challenge our staff and took it up to 74%. So that means dollars at the end of the day. It means more in your coffers. The other driver was an aggressive approach by the valuation department to add new issued titles to the property roll. Each and every year, people acquire lands, and if not for our aggressive approach by our valuation department to have those properties included on the tax roll, we would be right back in the same situation the next year.
In drawing revenue from various areas of operation, the Belize City Council also realized another $1.5 million from its traffic department.
Revenues for traffic, when compared to 2018, increased by 32%, going from 4.5 million in 2018 to 6 million in 2019. That's performance, right? Again, this was driven by traffic wardens' proactive approach in enforcing traffic laws, right? And an increase in registered vehicles and licenses. These are the two major revenue earners for the traffic regime.
When everything has been taken into account, CITCO's reversal of fortune is attributed to austerity. Politics, however, won't allow Mayor Bernard Wagner to look beyond the shortcomings of his predecessor.
All of this money for tourism got to the Darrell Bradley bond, right? That got to him bond, where he strapped we, take all of we money and he set it aside to pay the bond for the cement streets and where they broke up. Funding from GOB, this is the part where I want to pay keen attention. Funding from GOB decreased by 45%, going from 2.9 million in 2018 to 1.6 million in 2019. And list, that 1.6 million no come now we. That got direct to Central Bank for pay for Darrell Bradley bond. Right? So I put that in notice at the bottom there for make on a seat. Right? That is how, so you could clearly see that government has pulled back everything from us. So we at this council has performed extremely well, given the conditions we met.
Chest beating and self-gratification aside, while the administration has been able to reduce the debt it inherited by focusing on revenue collection and paying off creditors, it is yet to deliver fully on various assurances given to residents at the time of the 2018 municipal elections. CITCO intends to float another short-term municipal bond in order to fulfill those campaign promises. Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.
The Belize City Council is also planning to launch its own municipal bond in the days ahead. On March 16th, Mayor Bernard Wagner and his team will formally roll out a short-term bond, an iteration which he promises to be more creative than the initial certificate. The bond, we note, has been in the making since last year and is only just coming into fruition with the strong fiscal position of the council.
This approach that we took is what is now yielding the results where you see each and every day. This is where the yield that not just happen. This is by our strategy, and we have maintained that strategy, and that is why we are now moving forward, and we are able to have gained the confidence of the public, the confidence of the businesses to be able to now propel and launch our municipal bond, which will be launched next week, Monday, but which will be a more innovative type of financial instrument, right? It's much more innovative. It's similar to the debenture system that BEL uses, that you get funding in from bondholders. I owe you, but you pay the interest. At the end of the day, the bondholders are seeking return on their money. And the return that we are giving on these bonds that will launch next week are much more competitive than what the banks and the financial institutions are offering. And that is why we sit today poised and ready to really launch Belize City forward, right, in a fiscal way where has never been seen before.
CITCO has been busy over the past 2 years paying outstanding bills, which it says were left behind by the previous administration. While it has been able to steer City Hall out of the red, is it enough to convince residents of Belize City that it is keeping its word on improving their quality of life?
How do you generate the kind of positive impression upon the city residents that this period that we're in of austerity measures will pass and you will start to see development like you were seeing in the previous administration? I know you said, you've made the point that it is unsustainable.
Anecdotal. But Daniel, how can your question or the residents expect more from a city council? I just showed you the debts that we met. The taking away of 400,000 plus per month, 5 million per year, sucked out of this council. I think it's unfair that people would believe that we haven't been able to give back in terms of infrastructure. We through our programs, we have touched more lives than that council did with 40 million, with the little that we have. And now, Daniel, with the bond, we clearly have identified different key streets that we intend to rehabilitate so that the residents have a better quality of life.
Chair of the Senate Select Committee, Attorney Aldo Salazar, has completed the long-anticipated first draft report on the inquiry of the Auditor General's Special Audit Report on Passport and Immigration. The inquiry captivated the attention of the nation, spanned several months, and was conducted 2 years ago. Salazar has shared the draft report with other members of the committee, but we are told that representatives from the opposition party did not receive a copy. Salazar says that the draft report took some time for many reasons. He says that it is not the job of the entire committee to come together and finalize the report.
The Senate committee will produce a report. It's up to the committee to produce a report, not necessarily the chairman. The draft itself, we regrettably took a bit of a long time to complete. There's a lot of reasons why. I don't want to get into that. Suffice it to say, it was, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to produce it. Has been produced, and now it's now the responsibility of the Senate Select Committee to produce the report itself. So that means that senators would have been working all this time, would have or should have been working on their ideas and putting their thoughts together so that they can now finalize the report.
Okay, I believe it was also pointed out in our different news item that the Prime Minister had alluded or said something or informed the NTUCB that you had been abandoned by the other senators in compiling this report.
I don't really want to get into back and forth because I'm not the type of person who likes to cast blame on individuals. And I don't necessarily want to take the road of some of my other colleagues and discuss what has been said within the confines of our deliberations. Suffice it to say, though, that in the inception, I will say this, in the inception, it was never my responsibility alone to put together even the draft. Okay? I have taken the responsibility for it. I have been the scapegoat for it, but I live with that. That's fine.
Okay, last question in terms of timeline. When can we expect it to be tabled before the House?
That's not a matter which I control, to be honest. As I said, I would have controlled the original part. If I had been more proactive, yes, I will take responsibility for that by taking the bulls by the horn and ensuring that the first draft was ready prior to this. Yes, I could have done that. But like I said, the explanation I gave was in terms of my personal exigency, which kind of got in the way. But in terms of this last part, as the chairman, I am not necessarily responsible for finalizing the report. The report is going to be finalized by the members of the committee.
The National Trade Union Congress of Belize met on Saturday to discuss the Prime Minister's response to the good governance demands made by the Congress. The Congress earlier this year wrote to Prime Minister Dean Barrow making several demands, including the immediate allocation of a substantial and adequate budget for the UNCAC and for the Integrity Commission. President of the NTUCB, Marvin Mora, says that the Prime Minister has committed a significant budgetary allocation for the Integrity Commission. But overall, Mora says that the response was not fully satisfactory.
NTUCB, even though we've seen some movement, we are not really satisfied full with what he has presented. So we will continue having this dialogue with the Prime Minister. And as I explained to you, he has already updated us in some of the movements that they are willing to make. For example, he has already indicated to us that there is significant allocation for an increase actually for the Integrity Commission, which he has already forwarded to the NTUCB and should be tabled in the next House meeting, I guess.
In terms of that significant increase, was it mentioned how much? And we know that in the past there were issues in appointing members and specifically the chair of the Integrity Commission.
Right. There has been some issues in regards to the appointment. However, the Prime Minister, I believe he made an offer to the NTUCB to have a seat in the Integrity Commission, which we did not request really, but it is in the direction of what we actually want. But also, the increase in the budgetary allocations is really quite significant. I'm not entirely sure about the figures, but I think there was 100 and something thousand, and that has been increased to almost, I think, double. I'm not entirely sure about the figures, but that's the way I recall it at the top of my head.
What about budgetary allocation for UNCAC?
I still not sure because I haven't looked at the details. Those will be discussed with my executive committee and also with the General Council when we have a meeting again.
At midnight, the price for premium gasoline will go up by 52 cents to retail at $10.92 per gallon. The relief to consumers comes in a 60-cent decrease in the price of diesel, which goes down to $9.24 per gallon at the pumps. The prices for regular gasoline and kerosene are not affected and remain at $10.23 and $6.62 per gallon, respectively. After the break, the KHMH union says the isolation ward for the coronavirus should not be inside the National Referral Hospital.
If you manage
The deadly COVID-19 or coronavirus has been declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. The disease has spread to more than 100 countries worldwide, and all around Belize, countries have begun confirming cases and deaths due to the virus. More than 4,000 people have died from it. The effects of the virus are widespread, and it is pushing industries to the brink of collapse. Health officials here believe that it is just a matter of time before Belize confirms its first case. Late this evening, a woman in Guyana died from the disease. This was the country's first confirmed case. The president of El Salvador, according to the New York Times, has banned visitors from Germany and France due to coronavirus, after previously barring visitors from Italy, South Korea, and Iran, the countries with the largest outbreaks outside of China. Mexico and Jamaica, Honduras have also confirmed COVID-19 cases. Guatemala has announced that it will ban entry of European citizens to stop its spread. The Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital Authority has designated and prepared an isolated area with the National Referral Hospital to house and treat patients. KHMHA Workers Union, however, says that its members are gravely concerned. The union says that the isolation area is not only poorly equipped, but also poorly constructed.
We have been in the prepared isolated room, and I am saying it is not the type of facility that would be needed for the coronavirus isolation patients. We need a negative pressure room. What they have there is far from negative pressure. The ceiling is porous. You need a non-porous ceiling. All the fixtures, like fixtures and stuff, must be properly sealed. The doors must be self-sliding door in a negative pressure room. The doors that are presently there, all the doors, are doors that after I go in and take care of that patient and get contaminated, I will have to put my hands on those doors. Somebody else come and put their hands on those doors. Furthermore, the doors are not sealed. In other words, the virus, bacteria will flow under the door into the corridors, and innocent staff and other patients that has nothing to do with the care of these patients will get sick. In a negative pressure room, the AC unit is a no-no. In Singapore, recently they have done a research. After 3 patients with coronavirus was in a room, they have tested the AC, and the AC tested positive for coronavirus, which means that the virus, bacteria, travel through the AC system. Carl Huchner, in most of the places, have one central unit.
During the SARS in 2003, a Mennonite house was bought and placed right opposite Carl Huchner. It was an isolation area close to Carl Huchner, but far away from Carl Huchner, not in-house, right? So when we heard that they wanted to bring the patients in-house Carl Huchner and the area they were designating it, and all who work here know what it entails, putting that area there, the employees started, no, how can that be? Why? Then you hear this, you hear that, you hear the DHS saying something, then you hear something else here. So we were asking question, why? Why are we taking this responsibility? Okay, we will, but compensate us for the extra mile that we are going to go through.
According to the KHMH Workers Union, having the COVID-19 isolation unit within the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital puts the entire hospital at risk. Union President Lydia Alpuche Blake and Vice President Andrew Baird are calling on the authorities to address their concerns in a timely manner, or members will take the next step needed to have it addressed.
Let's plan something for the nation. It's coming. We don't know at what level we will reach it, but we cannot put the only national tertiary referral hospital for the public in jeopardy by putting the isolation unit within the hospital. Get a Mennonite house probably outside, right? Our press release was sending that message to them. Let's bring all who are on the ground to the table here and find how we can find a solution that will work for the nation.
So has the union formally communicated this through email to the CEO and the board?
We were having different meetings with saying things, people taking it back. But the only way people can get things is by doing a stand like this. That's the only way they listen to you.
The union position in reference to the use of Carl Huchner to isolate or see patients diagnosed or with symptoms of coronavirus is no. This is not about Carl Huchner. This is about the nation of Belize. Can the country of Belize afford for the National Referral Center being quarantined for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days because there's a widespread of COVID-19 amongst the staff and other patients within this institution? Because once we have a widespread among staff, they will quarantine Carl Huchner. Can this country afford that? That's the first question that the powers that be need to ask themselves. We see what happened in Italy we see what continues to happen around the world with the healthcare givers on the front line. They become patients. If we at Carolyn become patient, who will be on the front line for the National Referral Center?
What if the union doesn't get answers to your concerns? How far are the members willing to go?
Whatever the members want, we move with the power of the members.
The government of Belize has allocated $900,000 in response to COVID-19. Belize has yet to confirm a case, but health officials say that it is just a matter of time. During the sitting of the Senate on Tuesday, PUP Senator Isabel Bennett challenged the government to do more to protect and keep the public safe from the deadly disease. Bennett says that the government has failed to be proactive in the face of a quickly spreading virus.
For us in Belize, tourism is one of the main sources of revenue. And if we have left the gate so wide open, not to my mind being as proactive as we should in the healthcare system, then we're leaving John public to what? When our workers get sick, it simply means that there's less productivity. When our workers have to be quarantined for 14 days or more, that's less productivity. So what happens to the GDP then? On a recent trip to Barbados, which was just earlier in February, on arriving at the international airport, there were health professionals on the ground, literally taking temperatures of all persons entering the airport. On arriving back home, even though there was a scare, leaving the airport, the Philip Golson Airport, when you returned, there were health personnel, one or two you could have seen, but they were literally checking immigration papers. I could not see the proactiveness in that. And even after the coronavirus was sent as an alarm by the World Health Organization from December 2019, we were, as a people, just informed by the Ministry of Health, allocated just with $900,000 for this world epidemic. Basically, just what? 6 days ago. It is unacceptable by our leaders. We must always protect John public first. What was happening between December of last year up to February of this year? Was the focus on the people of this nation, even though the coronavirus was lowering itself all around the world? Were we too busy in ourselves that we did not even bother to pay attention and put the people of this country first? We were so preoccupied with leadership, not paying attention to the crime in the face of corruption, drug planes.
Senator, you can't go wide outside the marker.
I am pointing, Mr. President, and I thank you for the guidance, that if focus is given to the people of this country, knowing that there is an international, a global alarm on health, that should have been the priority of this government.
Prime Minister Dean Barrow will be hosting a press conference on Thursday on COVID-19. During the Senate debate on Tuesday, Senator for Government Business Godwin Hulse said that the government plans to establish a planning and implementation committee of line ministries and an oversight committee of social partners to deal with the emergency.
I'm here to inform the senator and the rest of the senators and the people of Belize that there is no taking this lightly. The cabinet has discussed it every single week, and I'm here to tell you, without preempting the Prime Minister's release today or tomorrow, that he has already established a planning and implementation committee of line ministers to deal with this as an emergency. But more so, he has established an oversight committee of social partners. He has already called the NGO community, I think he's called the unions already, I think he's called the business, to deal with this, and the opposition to join in that oversight committee to be able to look at this in its greatest depth. The biggest nation in the world, the United States, that has all the resources in the world, is still trying to find its footing with this particular virus. As we understand it, there are several areas that are not clear yet. So please, man, this committee will ask you to join and make your contribution there, us all of you to join and make your contribution there, as we do consider it something extremely serious. And please, let us not politicize Corona. That is not something we want to play with.
National Hand Washing Awareness Day will be commemorated on March 25th. In light of COVID-19, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, and the WASH multi-sectoral body, along with UNICEF, have designated the day as part of a concerted effort to put some preventative measures in place. Hand washing is the most important preventative measure to avoid catching the coronavirus, a respiratory illness that is transmitted from person to person. Coming up after the break, more than 200 recruits joined the ranks of the police department.
60 seconds.
A ceremony was held over the weekend at the National Police Training Academy, during which more than 200 recruits joined the ranks of the police department. The officers are now charged with upholding law and order, performing their duties with honesty and integrity. Here's News 5's Andrea Polanco with a report.
The Belize Police Department has 207 more officers. On Saturday, family and friends gathered at the National Police Training Academy in Belmopan to watch the new police officers of Intake 94 march onto the parade square of the academy, where they were officially welcomed into the Belize Police Department. At the passing out ceremony, the new Minister of National Security, Michael Parafit, inspected the new recruits. 10 of the new cops were recognized with individual awards for outstanding performance during their training. Minister Michael Parafit addressed the new police officers.
In your duties to serve, you must discharge your duties with fairness, integrity, diligence, and impartiality. While you must be resolute and relentless in dealing with those who choose to break the law, I expect you to treat all persons with courtesy, respect, and dignity. Public respect for the police depends on many factors, and to a large extent depends on you as police officers to exhibit the tenets of an exemplary police officer.
And to help guide these new officers, Minister Perfit says that they now have a manual to refer to so that they can carry out their jobs properly.
For the first time, the police department has put together a manual of policies and procedures, a manual that serves as guidance for you as police officers and to hold your commanders and supervisors accountable for the decisions they make. The main goal of the manual is to improve the professional outlook of the Belize Police Department, to improve the organization's efficiency and effectiveness, and to reduce the bureaucracy in the services of the Belize Police Department and its offices.
But that manual should only serve to reinforce the trainings and lessons. To join the Belize Police Department, the recruits did 6 months of physical and academic preparation. Recruit John Gamboa was named the overall achiever and received the baton of honor for his performance during the training.
The competition was tight, but yet the competition was fierce. And for me to have had an edge over the other 206 recruits was not easy. A typical day at the NPTA was filled with activities that ranged from fatigue to physical training to classes, presentations by guest speakers, foot drills, self-defense techniques, and the usage of firearms and safety, just to name a few. Some days were long, other days were frustrating, but my most favorite days were the ones that were productive and the ones where we worked together in unity as one body. The NPTA has taught us many things of great value, such as punctuality, discipline, accountability, and most importantly, that we should be ambassadors of the academy and the department wherever it is that we may go.
This intake is the largest squad recruited for the Belize Police Department. It's also the first squad to have received a 3-month field officer training program, which gave the recruits a first-hand experience of what it's like to be a cop.
A program that is broken down into 4 phases: patrol phase, traffic phase, investigation phase, and prosecution phase. We were all divided up and sent to our respective districts, where we were paired up with a trained officer who was supervised, assisted, and graded us throughout the program. Moreover, this program is very beneficial and has proven to be very effective, as it provided us with on-the-job training, which furthered our knowledge and placed us at an advantage, so that when we walk off this parade square, we will be prepared to carry out the duties of a police officer.
And to empower even more police officers, the Minister of National Security says that the police department will be using more technology to gather intelligence to help reduce crime.
In our effort to reduce crimes, while we intend to improve the system of collaboration with all stakeholders, the department's strategies must focus on embracing technology and on making every police officer a community-oriented police officer and an intelligence-driven police officer. As such, the department shall develop the capacities of all frontline officers and supervisors to be intelligence-gathering officers and at the same time a community-oriented police officer.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Last year, Belize recorded the lowest number of manatee deaths. But with less than halfway through the 3rd month of this year, there are already 5 recorded deaths. On March 3rd, a mutilated manatee carcass was found in the Swallow Key Wildlife Sanctuary. And on Sunday, another manatee was found dead with massive chop wounds off the seashore promenade in Belize City. Manatee conservationist Jamal Gavez calls for action to be taken to help protect the manatees.
We found that the animal was freshly dead. Probably not even an hour or 2 hours. Rigor mortis have not even kicked into the animal. Initial assessment on the animal saw that it had numerous bullet strikes across its back and over the left side of its shoulder, and including its head as well. The animal, like I mentioned, it was very fresh. It was a sub-adult male. So it's a very relatively young animal. The body of the animal proven to be one of a healthy animal. So you could have seen that nothing was wrong with the animal physically except for the both straights that were present across the shoulder.
Another manatee killed before this one down in Swallow Key area. What can you tell us about that manatee?
That was a very disturbing incident. We had a report from our friends of Swallow Key that reported there's a dead manatee within the sanctuary. The Clearwater Marine Research Institute team went out to do an assessment, and our initial assessment proved that the animal had both flippers were removed, including portions of meat from the shoulder area of the Manatee. We could have seen consistency of knife cuttings, which isn't of an animal or of a boat or anything of that sort. And the way the flippers were removed indicate clear indication that it was intentionally removed by someone probably for harvesting. It's unsure whether the animal was killed for harvest or it was an opportunistic harvesting. Someone may have found it and took the meat, or they killed it with the intention. Regardless, we continue to look into this along with the fisheries department to try and investigate the results of this to ensure that these kind of things don't occur. I mean, especially within the wildlife sanctuary and particularly within the Belize City area, which is so busy. These animals are facing so much issues already. For us to bring poaching on these animals is another problem that we can actually control. That's completely unacceptable, and I think that something has to be done.
When we come back, we'll take you to the banks of the Belize River, where enterprising residents look at opportunities for income from the annual canoe race.
What makes for
perspective.
Enterprising residents along the banks of the Belize River look forward for the annual Belikin La Ruta Maya River Challenge to generate income. From the sale of jewelry and food to parking fees, these create opportunities for communities as the canoe paddlers make their way from the Hawksworth Bridge to the end of the race at Belcan Bridge in Belize City. In the following report, News 5's Dwayne Moody looks at the spin-off of the race.
It was initially created 23 years ago with the purpose of bringing awareness to the environmental aspects of the Belize River that spans from the Twin Towns in the west to the old capital, Belize City. But in recent years, the Belikin La Ruta Maya River Challenge not only attracts athletes locally and internationally, but it brings economic benefits to communities along the riverbank.
The history of the river, the cultural part of it, the culinary aspect of it, so that from 23 years ago to today, we can see how this race has evolutionized from just being another little event to a big event that has created quite a bit of awareness, quite a bit of spectators, quite a lot of business behind the whole race.
Annually, thousands of persons, including Belizeans at home and overseas, tune in to the canoe race. Others travel from across the country and elsewhere to follow the 4-day event, as hundreds of paddlers in groups of threes make their way along the river, from the foot of the Hawksworth Bridge in San Ignacio to the Belcan Bridge in Belize City, making daily stops along the route. While each year the winners walk away with cash and prizes, it is also a highly anticipated event for the villages in which the races finish. During day 2 of the competition, the paddlers pass through More Tomorrow, the oldest village in Belize with a population of 185. For years, the chairman has been lobbying for the first leg of the race to once again finish in the village and not in Banana Bank several miles up the river. But that has not happened. Nevertheless, private properties which sit along the stretch of the river in More Tomorrow are used to generate income for the village. Residents make money by selling food and charging a small fee for parking on their farmland.
It's become a historical event now, and then most of the villagers, them, we used to have a team, but this year we don't have no team for this year. Then boy take one rest. Yeah, but then we always provide really food for them, for the outsiders. Then because we know the race start early and people are hungry, so we normally provide tamales and different kind of things for when they pass through. The village council would have done a part, to try make some kind of revenue come into the village. The villagers also they may have done a stall and different things, so they and all may have benefit, not only the council, and then all funds we may have raised may go into different projects where we need to get done in the community.
The race has had an economic impact on Doublehead Cabbage population 800. At least $15,000 is generated annually from parking fees and booth rental to entrepreneurs from the village and elsewhere.
It is very beneficial to the villagers and the village council, because this is a way how the villagers, make daily money, cook daily nice food and thing and sell it. And the village council, we charge a fee to go in, and we sell Boeing and Boeing products. We get a little profit off of that.
The event also provides an opportunity for visitors to experience the rich cultural heritage of the rural communities, from authentic Belizean cuisine using the fire heart, as well as the music and way of life.
Well, when you want the original thing, original village, everything, yeah. That's out of your business today, because you are getting full flavor of rancho. And when we do it, we bring it with love. Whatever we prepared for you, love. So when you eat the food, you will taste the love.
I do this from the start. From the start of year, we do this. I love do this. I look forward for this day.
Now, you have a diversity in foods that you talk to us about.
I have everything you want, it's right here. Kongs, lobster, fish, sheep, chicken, pork, beef, the works.
Belizean-inspired jewelry also made a debut since the event is a perfect platform to market businesses.
But for me, it's not just how I think my jewelry look. For me, it's the impact that I have on other people. Like, I realize that when someone gets something from me, that they like it, they would wear it. Like, for me, the best way to show appreciation for something is by using it, right? I'm truly thankful for the opportunity because it is in the rural area. I'm from the rural area, so it gets to other people to see what can come from the rural area as well.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.